Welcome to the Unitarian Society of Santa Barbara. Welcome into this sanctuary, whether you're here in our physical sanctuary or joining us online in our Zoom sanctuary. We are one community this morning as we step in from the spring into this hour together. Here at the Unitarian Society, where we strive to live with integrity, nurture wonder, and inspire the actions that transform us and transform the world. I'm the Reverend Julia Hamilton, and we have a fantastic morning. We've got all kinds of guests, especially a guest singer, Georgia Jacobson, is going to be joining us. She's visiting with the Santa Barbara Opera and gracing us with music this morning. We have reflections from our travelers to Hopi. We have, of course, our drumming circle here to provide us some rhythm, and all of you who have taken the time to come and nurture your spirit and mind, heart, and soul with us this morning. I'd like to extend a special welcome to any visitors we have joining us. We would love to get to know you better. And there's a yellow connection card inside your printed order of service here in this room. And there's a link to an online connection card if you're joining us from home. And we would love to keep in touch about all that's going on here at the congregation. There's a welcome table out in the courtyard to stop by and ask any questions you like. And we are going to be having a Path to Membership class at the beginning of May. For anyone who's feeling like maybe this place might be their spiritual home, we'd love to get to know you through that class. We have a couple things coming up in the life of this congregation beyond Sunday morning. And the first is that this evening, we are partnering with Congregation B'nai B'rith to host a Yom HaShoah service, a Holocaust Day of Remembrance service. This is an annual event that I've participated in at their space, which is currently under renovation. So we are hosting them in our space, part of this interfaith community that holds each other through the years. All are welcome at 7 o'clock this evening. We also have coming up this week our next installment of Good Things Growing. This is a forum where we lift up good things going on in our community, and this one is particularly urgent. It's about the housing crisis, and we're going to be hearing from two folks who have been involved in this over the years, who have a lot of information to share, and I hope you can join us Wednesday at 7 o'clock for the next Good Things Growing. And of course, dust off your ukuleles and get the groups together for our open mic night coming up at the end of this month on the 30th, and show off your talents. I have one more person I'd like to invite up this morning, and that's Nate Rich. Nate is on our board of trustees, and he would like to share an invitation to participate in the process around the renaming of the Jefferson window.
If you haven't yet responded to the survey emailed earlier this month about removing Thomas Jefferson's name from the sanctuary window, please think about adding your comments to the many we have already received. There's no deadline, but the Board of Trustees would like to hear from everyone. There is a deadline for submitting nominations for replacement names, and that deadline is today. You can still access the nomination form by using the email that was sent on March 16th, or you can stop by the table outside during coffee hour outside after the service today and fill out a paper form. Members of the board and the Anti-Racism Commission will be on hand if you have questions or comments. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration.
I invite you to take a breath, to settle yourself wherever you are, to feel yourself connected on this earth under one sky in this larger community as we ring our bell and let the sound connect us.
For our chalice this morning, Julia will be lighting a special chalice made by traditional Hopi artist and our friend Dee Satella. We light this chalice in honor of being in relationship with each other here on this beautiful morning. In choosing to be in relationship, we have come together to make each other better, to support each other in our dreams, our grief, our journey, and to feel supported to grow in our own hopes and way of living out our values in this world. Take a moment just to notice the energy of those next to you or those across from you on the screen. We are challenged to grow within our congregation because it's within our congregations that we work side by side with each other with respect and honor for our differences and belief and experiences. And it's here where we can feel the power of community, where we are recognizing and celebrating each other's and the greatness within each other. And it's from here how we learn to take our growth and our dreams as humans out into the larger world together.
I invite you now to think of something good that you noticed this week. Some change for the better that happened in this continual news cycle of bad news. We pause each week to remember that good things are growing all around us if we take the time to notice and nurture them. So we have our change for the good jar here. If you want to write down something good and drop it in that jar, we're collecting it all year long. And for our collective entry into our change for the good jar this morning, I want to share some news in our community that the ground main floor of the Santa Barbara Central Library has reopened after being closed since July of last year. This is change for the good because it means that we as a community are investing in our public libraries, keeping them working and serving our community in ways large and small. And this is a time when we need to reinvest in those public spaces, especially libraries, to keep our civic life healthy. So that's change for the good. Let us sing together now. I'm going to invite our song leaders to come forward and lead us in number 1010 in the teal hymnal. So pull out that little teal hymnal. The words are also on the screen. We're going to be singing together, We Give Thanks. Please rise in body and spirit.
Oh, we give them.
Thank you, Trasa and Mary, for leading us the song this morning while our choir director, Matthew, is away. So we've had a lot of holidays this spring, right? What are some of the holidays we've been celebrating this spring? Easter, Passover, what was that? Ramadan, right? This is the month of Ramadan in the Islamic tradition. Valentine's Day, right? That was a holiday that just happened, right? And with these holidays often come special foods, right? Foods for celebration that we don't cook every day. Maybe they're labor intensive or require special ingredients. What are some of the foods you've eaten these holidays? Eggs Benedict, a classic breakfast, celebratory breakfast. Hamantaschen. What else? What was that? Chocolate, right? I mean, who needs to reserve that for a holiday? Anytime you eat it, it's a celebration, right, with chocolate. So we've been eating these special foods. And just a couple of weeks ago, 10 of us traveled to the Hopi reservation to help out. And in the Hopi culture, they have special foods for celebrations as well. We were there for a celebration that our host, Di Satella, puts on every spring, an Easter egg hunt for kids and elders in his community. There were about 100 people that came to this massive egg hunt on Di's property around his house. And we made a mutton and hominy stew, which you'll hear more about. This stew took 2 days to make in giant vats over open fire. I didn't bring any stew to share. We ate it all. But I do have something else I want to share because the best Sunday service is one that has snacks. So I'm going to ask Kier to come help. And we are going to pass this out. Kier is going to walk around in just a moment. And if you would like some, just raise your hand and they will give you a piece. Just hold your hands out. Kier has washed their hands and is going to hand out little pieces of something called piki bread. Piki. It doesn't look much like bread. It's more like a phyllo dough, kind of a very, very thin, light, flaky, rolled up piece of piki. And piki is usually made from blue corn, so that you can kind of see the color of the blue corn. And Kier, if you want to go ahead and I'll tell people about how this is made so you can really appreciate it. If you want some, just go ahead and raise your hand and Kier will break off a little piece for you. Now, it's made from blue corn, and blue corn was actually first cultivated by the Hopi people. It's a cultivar of corn that comes from that place that we visited. And piki is made when you grind the blue cornmeal very fine and add in some water and a little bit of ash from a juniper tree into a thin batter. Now, in addition to the batter, what you also need to make piki is called a piki stone, which is a flat, rectangular, very smooth, very hard stone that is heated over an open fire until it reaches about 700 degrees, right? And these piki stones are often passed down generation to generation, mother to daughter. And piki is made not just on a piki stone, but in something called a piki house, which is a little one-room building, often made of stone, separate from the main house, to keep the main house from getting heated up when piki is made. And I've heard from the women who make piki that it is really hot and sweaty work, especially in the summer when you're in this little room over the hot fire making piki bread. Now, when the stone gets hot, what you do is you scoop some batter out onto the stone, and without using any utensils, just your bare hand, you smear the batter really quickly over the stone into a very thin layer. And it cooks almost immediately. And then you add another layer and the edges start to curl up. And don't worry, we'll get some back there for you. I see you back there in the back. The edges start to curl up, and the woman making it rolls it up real quickly from this hot stone into these kind of light and flaky rolls. If you don't work very fast, you will get blisters on your fingers. It is a skill. Piki is made for celebrations and holidays, and most importantly, weddings. The family of a Hopi bride makes dozens and dozens of boxes of piki bread that are distributed and given away as part of the week-long festivities surrounding a traditional Hopi wedding. So as you go ahead and taste some of this piki, you can taste not just the blue corn and maybe the hint of the juniper ash, but also the work, the investment, the cultural background that goes behind this food that is so freely and generously shared and given away. Because that's the thing about piki bread. It's not something that you make because it sustains you. It's very light. You couldn't just make a meal off of piki alone. It's something that is made to be shared. It is something that is made to be given away, not just to physically sustain the community, but to reinforce and sustain the bonds of the community. By making something for each other, we help all thrive. So next time we're cooking for each other around here, next time you're in the kitchen cooking for the warming centers or making a meal for the Seder or bringing something to one of our potlucks, remember that when we do that, we're not just providing sustenance for our physical bodies, but also sustenance for the community bonds that hold us together and make us stronger. I see we've got almost the piki bread all the way in the back. We've got some kids in the back that have got their hands up there here. And we are going to, after they get their bread, we are going to sing our kids out to their activities, and we'll continue to pass the piki around. So don't worry, everybody will get some. Let us sing our children out as they grab some piki. We're keeping Kier busy this morning. Heather, could you give us a little piki bread passing out music while we get these last folks their snack? If we have any left over, I'll make sure that we get it out at coffee and social hour for anybody else who wants to get a taste. Thank you, Kier. I invite you now into a time of reflection, meditation, and prayer. To pay attention to your breath once again as it moves in and out of your body in space, in this world with other bodies, in this shared moment. During our time of prayer and meditation, we often lift up places and people who are enduring trauma right now, who are going through something or have just gone through something. But today I want to invite us to hold in our minds and our hearts those who have been working to survive long after the news cycle has moved on, long after the condolence cards stop arriving, long after the emergency resources pack up and are redeployed to the next disaster zone. Let us remember this morning the families still living in shelters months or years after earthquakes and floods. Refugees still moving from camp to camp. Migrants still stuck at border crossings. Prisoners still fighting their appeals from the jail cell. There are many who live and survive among us with long-haul hurts, old injuries that never quite heal, addiction and recovery, and relapse and recovery, long COVID, chronic pain, invisible wounds that might take years of therapy just to begin to uncover, grief and loss and grief again in waves unceasing as the tides. Let us hold in our hearts and our prayers together all the travelers on this long road to recovery, that they may find way stations of peace, moments of ease, companions to let them know they are not alone. Every day we go on through challenge and change, rebuilding homes, rebuilding lives, redrawing our well-made plans, and rediscovering hope together.
When you walk through a storm, keep your chin up high, and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden sky, and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone.
Thank you, Georgia. That was beautiful. I now would like to invite three folks who traveled with us to Hopi this year to share their reflections on the experience, starting with Lorraine.
Morning. My name is Lorraine Woodman, and I've been a member here for over 30 years, and I've successfully avoided giving any reflections until this time. Public speaking is my least favorite activity. In fact, when Reverend Julie asked me if I would be willing to give a reflection, I said that I would rather be placed on a pyre of sheep dung along with one of Dee Satala's pots. So are you seeing the video? Okay, I'm not seeing them here. But here I am. It occurred to thank you. I did karaoke yesterday for the first time, so I think I have this. I'm not sure what's gotten into me. At any rate, it occurred to me that these trips to Hopi were a gift. I've been able to experience, however briefly, parts of a culture that most people never get to see. So I decided to show my appreciation for this gift by sharing a little bit of what I gained from these trips and showing a few photos so you can visualize just a part of what we did. First of all, it is a great opportunity to get to know other UUs. Chatting during coffee hours a world apart from camping with people in wind and snow without fire or running water, or painting an outhouse, or chopping wood, or helping entertain the kids at Dee's annual Easter celebration, or even cutting up enough sheep to feed 100 people. That's Craig, that's part of a sheep. This is Kier, and she's a vegetarian. So, and Adam, you may not know this about Adam, but he can slice through a sheep bone with 4 cuts, and now that is not easy. It's a skill that we honed. And I'm happy to report that Unitarians are fun to travel with. I've gone on 3 trips now to the Hopi and Navajo reservations with adult groups, high schoolers, and junior high groups, and I've had similar experiences with each one. When it snows, we go out and dance. Or at least the younger ones do. The older ones just take photographs. When the wind howls, we tie things down. I can tell. Bread oven outdoor that we've repaired in the past, and the wind was howling. This is the day that the girls' tent actually blew over. But when work needs to be done, we do it with a smile. Most importantly, we show respect to our host from Suming Nungwa and to the people we are there to serve and to learn from. Because visitors from the Unitarian Society have shown this respect over the past 12 years, we are allowed into the homes of elders in order to help deliver boxes of food, other items that they need, and this year even Easter baskets. In these homes, we are able to get just a glimpse of what it is like to live in Hopi today. These people don't have the material comforts that we do. Many don't have running water or electricity. Health problems are rampant, but we are invariably greeted with warmth and kindness. The first photo is of Leo. He has a tracheotomy and struggles to speak, but he's a talented kachina carver, and he talks with enthusiasm about the Niman kachina that we purchased. The Niman dances take place in July after the kachinas have come from their spiritual home to participate in sacred dances, and this is the dance that they do when it's time for them to go back to their spirit world. This next photo is of Myrtle. She's with Cheryl Marisak, who's the head of Sumi Nungwa. I suspect that Myrtle is in her 90s, but she has an amazing sense of humor. When she got a flashlight, you can see there, she waved it around and she said, "Now I can go outside and use this to signal my boyfriend." And I think she was kidding. When she got cans of Spam and Vienna sausages, she was thrilled beyond belief. One year, she actually stuck it down her shirt and she said, "Now I'm not going to share it with anybody." So, quite a character. But we also have ample opportunities to learn about other aspects of Hopi culture as well. Each year, we see presentations by Micah, a Hopi anthropologist who has unique insights into the challenges his people face. These include the loss of traditional religious practices, which in turn can lead to the weakening of social bonds. We also learned of the tremendous toll that COVID has taken on the reservation, creating an even greater need for the supplies that we deliver. Many died during the pandemic, and the reservation was closed to outsiders for several years. For those who make their living selling crafts, this was financially devastating. Before COVID, unemployment was already 25%, so people struggled greatly with this added burden. On the brighter side, we are also treated to presentations by craftspeople such as Samantha and craftspeople such as, Kachina carvers. This is Kayenta, who also made us Hopi tacos for dinner one night. She's one of very few women Kachina carvers because this is traditionally a male craft. Samantha is a basket maker, and she told us how and some of the people in our group were able to go help gather materials for the basket making. And we learn not only how they make the baskets and the kachinas, but we also learn how these things are intertwined with their cultural beliefs and practices. My favorite activity is learning how Dee, the talented potter whose ranch we stay on, creates his pots using methods learned from his mother and grandmother to dig clay, make paints from native plants, create brushes from yucca, paint them, and ultimately fire them outdoors. When we are there, he fires them using a fire that we help build from sheep dung, pine branches, and cedar. The results are stunning, and their beauty is all the more meaningful because of our personal connection to Dee. One of the most meaningful things to me, however, is the insight that we gain into different ways of viewing the world. Samantha, the basket maker, talked about how Hopi farmers give offerings to the earth before planting their crops. Corn is sacred to the Hopi, and Dee sprinkles ground corn outside every morning as he greets the day with thanks. We were able to help Dee grind the corn that he uses, which deepened our appreciation of this ritual. When Dee makes his pottery, he does so with good intentions because this matters to the outcome. When he fires his pots during our visits, he also asks that we hold good thoughts so that the firing may go well. He lays cedar branches over the top of the fire because in its flames you can see the spirit of the clay used to make the pottery. Now, I spent more than 30 years managing scientific reports. Do I believe that sprinkling offerings on the ground really makes crops grow better? Probably not. But I think that showing reverence, gratitude, and respect for the earth through such offerings changes the way that people treat it. Instead of poisoning the earth with pesticides and petroleum-based fertilizers, I suspect that we might treat it more gently, benefiting us all, if we gave such offerings. If we began each day with a spirit of gratitude and a sense of the sacred as Dee does, I think this will probably go a long way toward carrying this attitude into the rest of our day. When Dee makes and fires his pots with good intentions, he is connected to his creations. The way that he approaches his pottery matters to its outcome. His pottery has a spirit, and it is affected by the thoughts he brings. I believe that if we viewed the earth and the things that come from the earth as being imbued with spirits that were affected by our attitudes and actions, we would be better for it, and we would be more likely to protect the earth for future generations. Thank you.
Aaliyah, would you like to come up?
Hi, I'm Aaliyah, and I'm a part of the youth group here. I'm in 7th grade, and I'm going to read a poem I wrote about visiting the Hopi. We went to the Hopi reservation. It brought me lots of joy to learn about their culture, to visit elders' houses. I found their way of life inspiring. I almost felt at home. I remember the deliveries, the visits to Hopi homes, their welcoming attitudes, their thanks that we had come. I realized what it meant to them. It was special, and I know that we made a woman's day by visiting. She was so delighted by something so small, a flashlight that we gifted. She loved it. She was 94. She turned it on and off and said that it was perfect for her, for she couldn't see at night because it was too dark. And so we left her feeling glad that she now had a light. Another time that made me smile was the Easter celebration. There was a young girl, about 5 or 6. She was so happy just because we were there. She loved the party, the face paint, the egg hunt. But what really made my day was seeing her joy as soon as she came, when after 5 minutes of using a bubble wand, she already thought that it was the best day. These are just 2 highlights of one amazing trip, an opportunity I already miss, that filled me up with happiness. And now I understand, because of flashlights, because of bubbles, that simple things can bring so much joy if you take some time to appreciate them. I know I will always remember the special experience I had, for I was gifted a pottery shard to remind me of times on the res, to show me that small things have value, an inspiring message to know, and to have a piece of my time there so I know I can always look back. Thank you.
My name is Emily Shayer, and I've been a member of this congregation for a long time, but I haven't had many opportunities to share. And it was my first time going on one of the Hopi trips. And I was able to go with my daughter, Aaliyah, who just shared. And in honor of National Poetry Month, she thought we should reflect through verse. And so that is what I have done. And so I present to you my poem titled The Way Home. I set out on the road to Arizona with a full heart and an open mind, aiming to listen and learn, be of service and receive gifts of experience and discovery for my daughter and for me. Almost immediately, felt such a strong sense of physical and spiritual journey, changing landscapes and changing time zones, miles and minutes traversed by our caravan of travelers, seeking wisdom and renewal, bringing carloads of love and citrus from our brothers and sisters in SB. Impressions that have stayed with me and been committed to memory. The gently winding road through a snow-lined forest outside Flagstaff, the towering San Francisco peaks with white caps and palpable mythic significance, overseeing, presiding, standing watch as a promise in the distance. A red horizon lined with mesas and buttes, ubiquitous treelessness, startling in its void. Sun-bleached desert chaparral prevalent in every direction forever. A kind of moonscape married to a Mars terrain, or somewhere in between, otherworldly and prehistoric, with a beating heart and ancestral blood. Church buildings of every Christian variation scattered here and there, with signs advertising fellowship and God's love, some long abandoned and others more recently born. Homes of all shapes and sizes spread widely across the vastness, some in pairs and some in bunches, trailers and trucks tucked in among them. Villages perched atop the mesas, older structures passed down through generations, memorials of predecessors and a time before time. Dirt roads, but no road signs. A feeling of being both lost and found in a world without a grid or a map to declare, you are here. Affording us the chance to wonder, ask, and discern for ourselves, where am I? Where have I been? And where am I going? A sudden and striking awareness of the limitations of satellite tracking technology, GPS for the soul being another matter entirely. A feeling of arrival at a destination of profound stillness. The first evening on the property, surreal in its serenity. A perfect alchemy of weather and warmth for the welcome weenie roast, being charmed by the lighthearted logo on the t-shirts worn by new friends from Salt Lake City. Don't worry, be Hopi. The complete camaraderie that coalesced through collecting kindling, building the A-frame, lighting the match, and stoking the flame. The campfire, a catalyst for coming together in community. The wind that whipped up the following day, sending us in many directions. My group deployed to distribute goods and goodwill to the private residences of elders. An assembly line of youth filling cardboard boxes with items of greatest need: baking powder, salt, canned goods, and Crisco, color-coded, stacked, and ready to go. The absolute delight of the deliveries themselves, each one the living definition of Sumi Nungwa, a Hopi phrase that means to come together to help and benefit one another with no expectation of reward. The reverence I felt for the reunions between Cheryl and her Hopi sisters and brothers, each one a testament to her life's legacy. My feelings of unworthiness as I witnessed these special bonds, having done nothing to earn the intimacy of those exchanges. Humbled and grateful for the association that offered me the chance to be welcomed like a long-lost relative, openly, unconditionally, and with sincere curiosity. The distinct honor and blessing of proximity to holy shrines filled with jewelry and photography, plaques, baskets, and katsinas made by hand from wood and yucca, traditionally in the spirit of their ancestry. Cornmeal sprinkled as a part of prayer, clan identity displayed with pride and care, eagle, water, deer, and bear. The storytelling they freely shared with a sparkle in their eyes, tales of old and tales of new, common themes running through. Beloved rituals, a culture of ceremony, community identity, the layered struggle of their sovereignty, tradition versus modernity, and all of that complexity, and the question of what to make of academic archaeology. At the center of every story was always family and our shared humanity. In every interaction with the Hopi, so much beauty in simplicity, ordinary moments filled with majesty, the faith and groundedness of D, the practiced purpose of his pottery, his attitude of wait and see, detachment from eventuality, belief in what will be, every shard entitled to its sanctity, holiness in its brokenness, Mother Nature's intention in its fragmented identity, inherent value in being one single piece of the whole, separateness, a Western illusion. Since I have been back in the real world of Pacific Standard Time, the 5-day work week, and the Gregorian calendar, I have found myself disoriented, maybe even homesick, burdened by the oppressive weight of our time-bound way of being, bombarded by the senselessness of so many things, plagued by a deep need to slow down and stop, be, receive, resist the urge to move, do, achieve. Watching myself living in a movie montage featuring a woman who is me, in suspended animation while everything everywhere all at once is swirling around her at triple speed, marveling at the chaos of movement and motion that so many of us mistake for meaning. Thank you.
Each month here at the Unitarian Society, we give away a portion of the offertory to an organization or a program that is living out our values in the world. And April's outreach offering goes to the Alternatives to Violence program. And Santa Barbara Alternatives to Violence program teaches nonviolent ways of communicating and working with each other in the prisons, in the schools, in our community. You can read more about it in your order of service or check them out online. They're doing amazing work. And please join me now as we read our order of gratitude and giving in your order of service as well. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for those who share their gifts with us, for we are enriched by their giving. And let us be grateful even for our needs, so we may learn from the generosity of others.
There's a poem by T.S. Eliot titled Four Quartets. It's an epic poem. If you haven't read it in a while, or if you've never read it, I highly recommend it to you. But it contains these 4 lines. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. I think of these lines often when I travel. The goal of travel is not just to see the new place, but to see our old places when we return to them with new eyes. Exploration is often associated with newness, or at least new to you-ness. Places, experiences, people you are encountering for the first time. In our culture, we place a premium on newness, on the next undiscovered thing, the pristine beach, the hidden spot, the I was there before it was cool bragging rights. After having climbed one mountain, we set our sights on the next one. We are a culture invested in the expansion of experience, as if we have internalized this concept of manifest destiny to such a degree that it seems our obligation to constantly explore the edges of our maps. And that's not to say that exploring new places is bad. Of course it isn't. I hope to have many more trips in the future to places that I have not yet been in my past. But this is just to say that new places are not the only sites for exploration. There is a rediscovery in the return as well. Walking through the door of your home after an absence, and you see all the small changes, the mail on the floor, or the mold on the leftovers that you forgot to throw away, or the plants in your garden that have bloomed or faded in your absence. The hot water from the tap after having been camping for a week in the cold with no showers. And then there's the newness in yourself, the experiences you carry that have shifted something inside of you, or perhaps opened up a new door to a room inside yourself that you never even knew was there. I think of myself constantly like this house where I'm finding these new doors to these new rooms that I didn't know existed. So travel reveals new doors even in old places. And Hopi is one of the oldest of places. It is perhaps one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in North America. Arrivee on Third Mesa was established probably over 1,000 years ago, and the homes have been inhabited by generations ever since. Something happens when you invest in a place like that. When the values shift to highlight what happens when you embrace the world from a center point rather than the edges of a map. When the landscape and your life are so interconnected for generations that they become inseparable. To be Hopi, as Micah Lomovaya, the Hopi anthropologist who worked with us, he explained to us that to be Hopi means to be civilized. To be settled in a place as a people with a coherent web of relationships and meaning that sustain you. This is civilization. It is impossible, he said, to be Hopi in some other place, or to be Hopi by yourself. The Hopi became who they are when they arrived at their homes on the mesas and established their relationships with the world around them. The stories and ceremonies and family clan structures and the art like the carving and the basket weaving and Dee's pottery. These are all interdependent and inseparable from that sense of place. Dee could not live anywhere else and do what he does. His work is literally dug from the earth underneath him, ground from the rocks and the plants around him. It requires a commitment to remain in place, in service of something larger than yourself, despite the hardships that it also entails. And this is why the work of supporting the elders and the artists is so critical. This is what we hope to bring with us when we go, some material support to help sustain people, real living people, in a place that is both marginalized and mythologized by the wider world. When the elders and the artists are sustained, their unique experiences and wisdom and practical knowledge, they have a chance to survive just a little bit longer so that it can be passed along, maybe, just maybe passed along to their kids and their grandkids so that they can be Hopi too. But this sense of place and identity, while it's deeply rooted, it is not static. This is not a museum of life. but rather a life that requires constant cultivation, constant renewal and recommitment. The Hopi word for cultivation is Natwani, which Micah taught us, which means not just to cultivate plants, like the blue corn that they have been cultivating for generations, but also to cultivate relationships. When you spend time with your nieces and nephews and grandkids, you are cultivating them, nourishing them as they grow, and strengthening them so that they will survive and thrive. Natwani is about nourishing and strengthening growth and life. It is not about keeping everything exactly the same, but it's about keeping everything connected. In this work of cultivation like this, there is no distinction between the sacred and the secular, no duality of mind and body, object or subject. As Lorraine mentioned, each plant and field, each piece of pottery or woven basket, each family relationship is cultivated with intention and prayer, as well as practical knowledge. Nothing is separated, atomized, and alienated from the whole. And us, as visitors and travelers, we become part of that whole. We are not alienated as other in the experience, but embraced as connected, interdependent family on this human journey that we are all on. And coming from a culture that reveres self-reliance and individual achievement above almost anything else, where spirituality is so often a commodity, and finding meaning in life is viewed as your personal work, not something that we have collective shared responsibility for. I think we have a lot to learn from a culture with a deeply interdependent ethic, centered on living a life of purpose through relationship rather than acquisition. When Micah told us about the concept of Natwani, it became clear that this kind of cultivation is what we are doing when we return year after year. Each time we return, this was our 6th visit in the past 12 years, we are cultivating the relationships that sustain us, the mutual us here, us there, us together. There is a mutuality in this work that is so much more than just service, so much more than just our attempt to do some good somewhere. When we return to Hopi, each trip is new and unique, and yet we are welcomed as old friends. We are opening new doors into old rooms, and each time we return, we are renewed, made new in those relationships, in that sense of connection with each other and the world we share. And the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Thank you to everyone who helps make these trips possible. We are in it together. Let us sing together one more time. We're going to stay in that teal hymnal, number 1023, Building Bridges.
We'd like to invite you to sing this number first together, one time through, and then as a round. This side of the congregation will join Trasa as part 1, and this side will sing along with me in part 2, and we'll sing it through twice as a round.
Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, building bridges between our divisions,
invite you to stay right where you are. And after the service, would be helpful if I turned on my microphone. After the service, if there's anyone who would like to come up and see the chalice more closely, I'll be up here and happy to talk a little bit more about how it was made or some of the symbols that Dee paints on it if you'd like. And if you want to take hands with someone near you, if you have permission, or hold your hands over your heart if you prefer, or just hold them open wherever you are, get a sense of being connected in this larger community, whatever that looks like for you. And as you go forward from this space, out into this beautiful and heartbreaking world, may the light of love shine upon you, out from within you, be gracious unto you, and bring you peace. For this is the day we are given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And now let us call out a blessing.
Hello, Eden, are you there?
Can we get a different view?
There's Joni.
Hello,
Sorry
Joni.
about that. Can you hear me now? Hi, it's Erin.
Hi.
There we go.
We can, we definitely can hear you and we can talk.
Okay, great. I'm used to doing this from my home computer. Let me see here. There we go. Now I've got the right camera on. I'm looking in the right place. And I can see everyone and hear everyone.
Colin, how are you feeling?
Sorry.
I'm doing fine. This is very light. I've got COVID.
Oh, I'm
Or
glad to
had
hear this
COVID, but it's
light.
very,
I'm so
very
glad.
light. I didn't know I had it.
That's how it spreads when people don't know they have it.
Yeah.
So,
Unfortunately,
Joni,
probably right.
are you still negative, Joni?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Glad to hear that too.
Yeah, I've got my door open and I have my mask here. I have several masks. And we're in 2 different rooms most of the time. Yeah, the main reason we found out was that another friend who I sat next to at breakfast told me she had been exposed at a Vistas class and that she had it. And that, that's what prompted us to test. So, I mean, if you're not prompted to test, maybe you should test anyway if you're going somewhere. It turns out that that would be a really, really good idea.
Right. We, John here, Dorothy and I are just finishing up our experience with COVID for the first time. Oh. And I may have gotten it at a Vistas class, but in any event, we're fine. One of the notable things is this magic, this recommended medication. I'm sure, Colin, you have Paxlovid.
With difficulty.
The most awful metallic taste in your mouth. I hadn't heard about that. And but I'm happy to report that one day after you go off the Paxlovid, on the 6th day, this taste disappears. So there's something really to look forward to.
I haven't noticed that.
Yeah, you will. I hope I didn't give it to you, but in any event, we're.
If you went to the fascism class, that's where 12 people got it. I understand.
I was at that class.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Gosh.
Yeah, that's 12 people did not show up on, could not come for the final class.
Yeah.
So that's where I heard about it.
Yeah. Well, that I'm really glad you told me that, because we went to Pat, the memorial service the day before Easter, and then the next day I really started